as leaders, what type of advice can we give them to basically set up an AI augmented workforce in terms of setting up a company, setting up teams, doing consulting work, whatever that might be, right? Like project development, vibe coding, anything in between. Let's kind of focus on the leaders and kind of talk through what type of advice or suggestions we can give them.
I think now these are boardroom conversations. That's the good news, right? AI is a subject, and upskilling, I always say, starts with you first. So whether you call yourself a leader or running a team, first you need to get your hands dirty with these tools, understand its power rather than listening to what others say. I think Yuresh, you pointed earlier in the earlier segment about individually upskilling. Peer learning is also something that we should do, right? I mean, think about it, right? When we used to study, we bounce ideas. So, there are different experiences, different tools that we are using if you can share. But as leaders, I think you need to lead by example. And in the future, everything will be sprinkled with AI, as they say. I think it's very important that the leaders set the tone. They themselves upskill first. They make sure their teams are also trained, right? Training is necessary. You cannot just tell the individual, go figure things out. Formal training, if they can make that available to them, it helps them, right? Start. There's this concept of the super worker, right? But super worker doesn't happen automatically, right? It requires step-by-step processes. And you are talking about organizations. One of the key things for me is making sure we use the right tools for the corporates. Imagine you're sitting on a wealth of data that is very unique to that organization. Imagine your workforce going and using and putting that data on a public GPT, etc. So I think we need to talk about setting up good guardrails, a trustworthy AI framework, right? I always say any organization will have a business strategy, right? But now it's important to have what we call an AI strategy. Why? We are going to use AI, data, and all of those tools. So you need to set procedures, policies for the workforce. You need to give them safe tools to use. You should encourage them, and also not only you get them to use the tools, make sure you review their output and appreciate that, right? A lot of leaders get people, their staff to use different tools but still want to see the data in Excel, right? Doesn't work, right? So these are some techniques they can use to make sure at an organization level, if you're an engineering company, encourage them to use these coding tools to accelerate, to do testing, all of those things faster, right? And making sure that you're AI ready. So that's something that's happening around, but in different regions, Shan and Yuresh, adoption levels are different, right? So I think from the boardroom onwards, if they set the tone, the leading organizations are doing things better, others will follow.
Right. It's interesting that you mentioned the adoption. Some of the conversations I'm having with some of my clients, they are struggling with how to calculate ROI around this, right? Yes, I mean, I think we all agree that it'll increase efficiency or productivity, right? But how do you really quantify it? So, for example, one of the clients is trying to figure out should they enable Copilot for the entire organization, right? And these things are not free. They are going to cost quite a lot, like from an organization point of view. And like this applies to like a lot of tools as well, around automation, productivity increase tools. How do you really quantify? I think like going back to like the boardroom suggestion, that's like definitely like an angle or a metric that companies need to figure out on how to effectively calculate it. Then it'll be easier to kind of justify out of this tool set we could focus on XYZ tools for the next year and so on and so on for the next few years from a roadmap rollout point of view. I think that is an important aspect that leaders and companies need to think about.
And Yuresh, you brought up a very common problem that every company, almost every company is facing is that ROI discussion, right? I can say that my own company, they are looking for statistics around how the Copilot is going, how many lines of code, he created. Surprisingly, it is more like how many lines of code he deleted than adding. new, which is also a good indication that it's getting rid of unnecessary code. But there is a conspiracy around it that, as a leader, I get to hear these things, is that developers are afraid to be reliant on Copilot because the leadership gets the statistics. Like if a person is like 90% on Copilot, it's like, do we even need the guy? So that's the fear they have. Like I'm going to use some other tool. I'm not going to use the Copilot because too many eyes on it. So it creates a problem because leadership is truly want to come up with ROI, but they cannot get that because developers are afraid to use it. So it's kind of a friction. That's one thing. Other thing, going back to what Haresh was talking about, flipping the pyramid upside down, I just wanted to say the opportunity here is that I'm pretty sure you can relate. Like developers come up with shiny tools all the time, but the business is the one that says, reality check, we don't need that, we don't have a problem for it. But this is the first time the top and the bottom are itching to use, right? Because the top level wants to use AI to come up with new features, and the workforce is also interested in getting their hands on. So I think it's a great opportunity to do things like hackathons from a leadership point of view, to bring ideas from the employee base, give them tools, like you said earlier. But at the same time, we should not be in a situation where the tail is wagging the dog, right? We need to think about a problem that we never thought could be solved. Now with AI, we can. So we need to start with the problem still, in my opinion.
Yeah, and leverage like the ideation sessions that are being offered by software vendors. Most large scale software are kind of getting into this AI powered mode, right? And they are to like come demonstrate their capabilities
Yes.
on what they're trying to roll out in the future. I think take advantage of those things. You will learn things, how to kind of think forward and how to kind of leverage this software in the future.
So, Yuresh, I think you brought a very important topic. And the way I look at is, as I mentioned, there's different adoption levels. And when we look at certain leading organizations who have done it a bit different, they're seeing a bit more success. And maybe we can take some cues from that and then we can see what works for us. I think we should not go by the trend rather than what they looked at. It is simply, are we going to use this for experimentation? Do we give to help them do that certain task more efficient? All of us, if we think hard, we can do something better. So for example, certain organizations take about their research, right? Analysts can spend significant amount of time going and researching certain areas. Now, if we can get agentic AI and others to do that base research for us, right? And bringing more, I would say more than insights, the actionable insights. I think a lot of us, I think we see a lot of dashboards. We are overwhelmed with dashboards, too much graphs and beautification, but we don't know what to do. So I think that's why I think the training is very important. If there is a culture, you mentioned about co-pilots and other solutions, where you can do it is you can pilot them first. So for example, why not start with our marketing team? If we want to generate images, right? Early you need to wait till a web designer, graphic person. Now the individual can generate multiple ideas, quickly brainstorm, even send it out, take the reaction, etc. So it's useful if you can start small. We talk agility, small use cases, quick success. Even leaders need to know some may fail, but that's quite fine. That's called experimentation. But see, boosting the productivity can be in many ways, right? If you can write more concise, specific reports rather than 100 pages, that's going to help. Imagine now we are on this particular podcast. At the end of the podcast, as meetings, if you can generate the requirements, we can generate the meeting minutes, the action items, which we may have to do manually. It can be done now, right? So those are some of the aspects beyond, how much time you save, etc., are going to be looked at. And we are seeing when they identify the use case, ROI can be calculated, and we encourage, right? What we talk about, building a business case, right? Because what happens is you, again, as you said, the shiny objects are being provided without understanding what it can do. And then they look at it as a cost exercise. So if there is a objective of improving your top line, reducing your bottom line, or seeing efficiency improvement, then you should go for some specific use case. And then we can measure it over time, right? And things that have worked well, we take it forward. Things that don't work out, we let it go. but still I think you have more to gain rather than just using for the sake of using. So hope that kind of gives some conversation around, organizations have adopted that, and we can apply that to others who are skeptical or who are trying to look at metrics in the different ways that may traditionally make sense in normal ways of projects.
That's
That's very
some
well
great,
put.
yeah, very well put, and great thought process there, Harish.